This is absurd. Is following Ross Atkins coming out and revealing the Jays' offseason plans as it pertains to making a new signing and making a trade. We have a brand new report that has dropped surrounding Alex Bregman that has fans second guessing the initial comments from Ross Atkins. We're going to break down these reports and discuss what it means going forward as things just continue to get absurd. But before we get into all that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're part of the 70% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jays content. Your guys' support has been absolutely unbelievable. We're getting very close to 16,000 subscribers. Thank you guys for that. Now, we know we've been covering on this channel Ross Atkins' comments from a couple days ago saying a trade is most likely. And in that video, I mentioned how there is a chance that this is all just a leverage play in order to give them an upper hand on Alex Bregman. And a new report dropped from Mark Feinsand, a very notable and reputable reporter, revealing some interesting details that counteract a lot of what we've heard from Ross Atkins. And now it's a little bit interesting to see who to believe. Now, obviously, Ross Atkins is the GM, so most fans would probably believe him. But we know he's been, with any Scott Boras client, things are starting to get interesting. But I wanted to cover this today. And we've obviously been running in circles about, the Jays being in on guys, the Jays being finalists, and the Jays never getting them. I'm not saying we're going to get Alex Bregman. However, this report dropped from Mark Feinsand, and there's been some rumblings about it that is very interesting. So you can see this here. Far and away, the best player still available. Bregman is the last man standing from this winter's list of top free agents available. There have been whispers in recent weeks about a potential reunion with the Astros, though a source termed that possibility as having a very small chance of happening. The Blue Jays, Tigers, and Red Sox still seem to be in play to varying degrees, but unlike some of the Scott Boras clients, Bregman appears to have no desire to sign a short-term deal with opt-outs. The Jays and Tigers are the favorites, though it remains to be seen whether either steps up to the type of offer that will satisfy Bregman. So, we know that Ross Atkins comes out and says, we'll dive into the comments in a minute here, how they're not necessarily, most of their additions will be through the trade market. We've seen before, especially with Scott Boras clients, that the more that you say, the worse you're worse off you are, right? Because if Ross Atkins would have came out and said, hey, we still have a strong chance, we believe we're going to be able to get one of these free agents, we know as fans, the Ross Atkins era has been so disappointing when it comes to free agency signings over the past couple of years that they struck down Ohtani, they struck down Roki Saki, all these different guys, that having the expectations high is the last thing you want to do if you're Ross Atkins in the front office. So what they go ahead and do is say, most of our, we have good pieces to provide depth regarding the starting pitching. Tellingly, he added at the bottom here, at this point, it would require a trade for us to add to the team. It doesn't have to, but most likely would be the case. So if you're negotiating with a Scott Boras client and Alex Bregman, why would you come out and say and give any leverage to the other teams? Or, Scott Boras, there's an extremely good chance that Scott Boras came out and said, hey, Ross, do not say that you're actively engaged or even favorites to land Alex Bregman, because if you do, then other teams are going to have more leverage knowing the Jays kind of are, in an interesting spot. Either they're very much in or they're very much out. And the Jays don't get any benefit from saying that they're all the way in on Alex Bregman, right? So I think Scott Boras probably told Ross Atkins, or Ross Atkins in general is sick of Scott Boras' games and wants to just remain quiet. That seems to be the case right now. Now, obviously, if Ross Atkins comes out and would have said, we're very much in on Alex Bregman, that wouldn't necessarily hurt Scott Boras and Alex Bregman's ability to negotiate, but we know that Scott Boras likes things to be fairly tight-lipped unless he says certain things to lean his way. Because let's say Alex Bregman and Scott Boras don't want to come to the Jays and the Jays say they're all in, other teams will be a little bit, interested in that. Or now this might hurt leverage either way. So it was in the best interest of Ross Atkins to remain quiet. And he did so by saying that they're probably going to require a trade. Now, following this report that came out from Mark Feinsand saying that the Jays and Tigers are the favorites, he would not say this unless he had sources and knew that the Jays were very much in play still. And that also leads back to this report that came out right after the Ross Atkins press conference. You think back to the Ross press conference where he said that, they were at depth via trade market. They're out on starting pitchers, all these different things. They talk about how the bullpen is an area. We know Arden Zwelling and Ben Nicholson-Smith on their podcast came out and said that Alex Bregman will be a perfect fit, but they're not hearing too much there. Right after this came out, you hear Ken Rosenthal coming out and saying and naming the Jays as finalists. Now, we've been through this rodeo before. We've been down through this path of finalists, right? Everybody, the Jays are finalists on everybody. And I'm not saying they're going to get Alex Bregman, but the report is extremely interesting. And you can see this here. This tweet kind of blew up. It's almost as if Ross Atkins talking about trading for a bat as the more likely path to acquiring a bat is just a negotiation tactic, and the Blue Jays are still in on Bregman. That seems to be the most likely case, because when you think about even dating back to the Max Scherzer comments when he said the Jays are all in, which we'll dive into in a minute here, it just seems like they're glaring hole at third base. We saw reports at the time that Max Scherzer would only sign if they, got one or two of Pete Alonso and Alex Bregman. Whether those reports are true or not is yet to be seen, and we will see. But it seems like the Jays are in an all-in approach here. They sign a guy like Jeff Hoffman. They make a trade, a win-now trade for Andres Gimenez, all these different things. And you're still, I guess, win-now trade in the sense of you're really going for it next year because Horwitz is going to be great as well. And it helps, Andres Gimenez under contract for more years, helps in the future as well. But the win-now move in Jeff Hoffman, you don't sign a $33 million bullpen arm unless you're really going in. So all these things lead to the fact that pay the extra bit of money for Alex Bregman. We know that Jon Heyman came out and said they have a deal on the table for 6 years, 156. Reports came out that Alex Bregman is looking for 6 years, 180. You have a report from Ken Rosenthal saying this. You have a report from Mark Feinstein naming the Jays as the favorites. We all know. Favorites, right? It's ridiculous. We all know how the Jays are the favorites for every player. I'm not believing the fact that the Jays are the favorites, but it's two different reporters now, really 3 to 4, that are saying the Jays are still in on Alex Bregman, even though Ross Atkins came out and said they'll probably go via trade. He's clearly keeping the cards closer to his chest. Now, do I think the Jays are going to get Bregman? No. I think he's probably going to go to the Tigers or the Cubs. We heard rumblings from the Cubs a little bit ago. That obviously didn't come to fruition. And we know here the Cubs are as serious as any other team about this, but the creativity of the contract and the length of the contract continues to be a problem. He really hasn't gotten a 6-year offer at $180 million. And the report from Mark Feinstein is saying that he doesn't want a short-term deal with opt-outs. The Jays have had the longest deal with 6 years, 156 on the table so far. If you're the Blue Jays, there is a world where they say, okay, we really want to push our chips into the table. They go all in and they up their offer, right? That seems to be what they're what some rumors are saying. At the end of the day, whether the Jays are favorites or not, I would not rule them out of Alex Bregman. There's a reason he said it doesn't have to, but most likely it would be the case to add via trade. It was an interesting thing to say while they have an offer on the table from Bob Nightingale, from Jon Heyman, two very notable and reputable reporters, specifically regarding Scott Boras' clients here. We know the Jays are in on Bregman. Are they going to get him? They're in on everybody. I'm leaning no. But at the end of the day, folks, it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle this. Now, a couple other things to go over. The Jays have signed a few other minor league signings. I'm just going to cover them here now because a couple of them actually make some sense. I don't think they're going to be, impact players in the MLB. And also let me know what your thoughts are on this whole Bregman thing. So they've invited internal non-roster players to spring training, Matt Watley and Robert Brooks. Now, the reason I'm even bringing this up is for one, and the main reason, their catching depth right now is very bad. You have Alejandro Kirk, and then assuming you have Tyler Heineman as your backup, you have Christian Bethancourt, who you brought in as well. It adds some more either competition for the catcher's role or just in general, it adds some competition in spring training and add some depth in AAA, AA for your backup catching, spot. You see this year. The good news with all these additions, the Jays finally have some depth at the catcher position. So we saw the Jays when injuries happened, they were really lackluster. So they got a couple other guys up. Former Ranger, I believe, Matt Watley. Let me know down below what your thoughts are, and also let me know how the situation. I mean, it keeps getting crazier. I know we're all pretty sick of hearing Jays are favored for this, Jays are favored for that. This is the last big free agent available on the market. We're less than 2 weeks away. We're less than 10 days away, ladies and gentlemen, until the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. decision, till spring training, pitchers and catchers reports. We're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers.